Robots Radio presents...
Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity.
You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search. Focus that fire. And so we come together. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on November 7th, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again, albeit a little bit later than our normal Friday evening. We appreciate your guys' flexibility. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the animated series JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Fair warning, both of these sessions will probably be more intro level because Green and I are not super well versed. Green is the resident expert in anime, as she... For those on the podcast.
You can't hear this on the podcast, but I am shaking my experience with anime is Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z.
You got Utena in there? Utena? Come on. You got to have some of the weird ones in there. Oh, man. That's...
No. I mean,
you're
if
saving
you count
your sanity.
Ruby as one, I've seen Ruby.
Ruby is animated.
It's Western anime, though.
It's in the same boat as Avatar, really.
That's fair.
Also haven't seen Avatar.
Okay.
Yeah, Pens, I actually already have access to your Funimation account. Blue has been forcing me to watch Wolf's Rain.
I'm making her watch Wolf's Rain.
You should be making her watch Avatar. That's almost a requirement at the 21st century.
Avatar is actually, I will give you Avatar. It's a slow burn. Like it takes a while to get into it, but once you do get into it, it's a pretty good arc.
I guess I've seen a few episodes of Avatar, but it's. They got
you have to get
Earthbenders.
Yeah,
and then I was
until you get to Toph, it's like As soon as they get to Toph, though, that's where the gas gets poured on the fire because it gets she's the best ever. So anyways, obviously you could hear it's Green and I. We also have on the show our guest co-host, and really honestly the person who you're probably going to hear a lot of for these episodes, NeoMadDog. Neo, how are you doing?
Oh, you're introducing me? Instead of ignoring me, you choose to introduce me
and
ask me how I'm doing?
Yes.
I'm doing great. I was trying to do it. I was trying to do a meme. You're approaching me, but it's you're introducing me.
Oh, gotcha. It's like, you're a guest. Of course we introduce you.
I've already talked. They know I'm here.
Yeah, but they don't know your name. Neo, not Matrixy.
I'm the different one.
The different one. Well, as usual with like the intro sessions, let's I want to shift actually back over to you, Neo, and kind of give everyone a little bit of idea of your history with like how did you get into JoJo? Because it is not to play off the title, but it is a bizarre anime.
Adventure?
Like, yeah, it's a bizarre adventure of an anime.
So back last summer of 2018, I was just scrolling through Netflix and I saw JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on it because I was looking for an anime. I think I might have just finished Evangelion. So I was like, I wonder what this is. This looks interesting. I watched the first 2 episodes and then I realized, so this is the show where all the memes came from. And then I was hooked. I finished the entire series, catching up with the anime in 2 or 3 months. And then in November, that following November, I realized I still needed more. And so I started reading the manga.
Oh, jeez.
I am now fully caught up with the series. I have the most recent chapter that just came out in October, and I'm now waiting for chapter 102 of this current story arc.
So there's 102 mangas, but how many?
Well,
there's hundreds. So the series is divided into parts, and we're currently in the 8th major story part. And chapter 101 of this story part was just published in October.
Green's face is the best right now ever.
This
manga's Green.
Started in
manga's
87 and continues.
Right. I understand the chapter aspect of it. Like, how many animated? Like, how many episodes in the animated version? Because manga is the reading version.
Right.
Yeah. So right now, only through part 5, the 5th major story arc, has been done in the anime. We're currently awaiting part 6. Doing quick math, sort of in my head, parts 1 and 2 are 29 episodes total. They make up the first season. Then part 3 is 43. Then 4 and 5 are 39 episodes each.
Okay, so
that's roughly 100 or so.
Okay, so that's not nearly as bad as I was thinking, because you're like, there's 102 in just this arc, and it's like, oh.
There's 102 chapters that are about 30 to 40 pages each.
Man,
roughly.
Okay. You binge watching? How long are each episode? Like,
they're about 20 to 25 minutes.
They weren't bad at all. They were packed. Like, there's a lot that happens in them, but like
it is a shonen battle series.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on, but it's not terrible.
Thing I noticed with some of the more popular animes is that they pack in, like, there's not long scenes in any of them. They're just bam, 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 bam.
That's JoJo's has the longest 5 minutes in 5 minutes making 30 minutes of content.
Oh, jeez.
One 5-minute battle with some time stops is around 2 to 3 episodes of actual television.
All right, so a little bit of DBZ style of powering up for two or 3 episodes before you finally make the shot.
Kind of. What's nice is that it's not like Goku shouting it's not the characters just shouting at each other. There is quite a bit of strategy involved with the series, which is something that I really like, is that every fight is 2 or more people trying to outwit the other and exploit the other's weakness.
Okay.
Yeah, actually,
everybody's playing 4D chess.
Yeah, it actually, like, because I'll be completely transparent. I've only watched the first 3 episodes so far, and so they've really introduced 2 characters. I think it's Jonathan, and then is it Dio? I think is and both of them have, exactly that. It's actually really enjoyable because the entire time, it's a little corny, to be fair, but like the way that they present both characters, it's much more depth than just like, oh, I'm just going to do like one punch you. It's more of like definitely more the strategy of they're trying to manipulate each other in more ways than just physical.
Okay.
So what JoJo's is really about, while yes, Jonathan Joestar does have the nickname JoJo and people call him that, JoJo is more of a nickname that's given to a variety of characters. It's the story of a family, really, the Joestar lineage, and each story, every part, I'm just going to call them parts, features a different member of the family as the protagonist, and they're each addressed as JoJo at least once. At least you can see like, oh, and because their name can be derived as such. So it's which each one is. So there's Phantom Blood. That is set in England in 1888 for the most part. That is Jonathan Joestar fighting his adopted brother Dio, who very early on uses an ancient stone mask that the Joestar family had to convert him into a vampire. He rejects his humanity and becomes power hungry and wants to take over the planet, and Jonathan ventures off to stop him. He's joined by his teacher of the Ripple, or Hamon. Hamon means ripple in Japanese, which is channeling the power of the sun through proper breathing. So if you breathe correctly and you have the gift for it, you can literally channel the power of the sun through your hands. And so Jonathan learns this in order to fight his vampire adopted brother. This is really where the kind of the story began, and Jonathan manages to lock away Dio under the Atlantic Ocean for 100 years. Jonathan's also joined by a street thief he met in London named Robert E.O. Speedwagon, who is
R.E.O. Speedwagon.
He's literally there to explain Speedwagon is best girl. Anybody who says it's FF is wrong. It's Speedwagon. Speedwagon
R.E.O.
is best girl.
Speedwagon, huh?
Yes.
That's the tip of the iceberg in these references, baby. So part 2 is set in 1939 across North America and Europe. It is Jonathan's grandson, Joseph, who is a prodigy in the Ripple, and he discovers the creators of these stone masks are waking up from their slumber. They're known as the Pillarmen because they kind of hibernate in pillars. They're like these ancient American vampire demigods who are all jacked AF. They're called they're led by Cars, as well as AC/DC and WAMU. And Joseph, who is some people's favorite, he instead of Jonathan, who's kind of like a goody two shoes, this very honorable man who like always seeks to do the right thing, Joseph is a trickster. If you want to think of like in Destiny terms, like Jonathan is Zavala, Joseph is Cade 6.
Okay.
He's always got a trick up his sleeve. At one point in his very first episode, he pulls a Tommy gun out of his very tight pants. I don't know where he hid it. This guy, and he's joined by Jonathan's mentor's grandson, Caesar Zappelli. Those two together master their ability of Hamon, or the Ripple, under the tutelage of the enigmatic Lisa, and in order to fight the Pillarmen to stop them from perfecting the stone mask any further. That brings us to part 3, Stardust Crusaders. This is the most popular part and what people might recognize.
Okay.
In fact, the OVA from 1997 and 2003 was actually adapting Stardust Crusaders, and there's actually a Capcom game called Heritage of the Future that came out in the late 90s that also featured primarily Part 3 characters. This is set across basically it's a road trip from Japan to Egypt in the year of 1989. Which has Japanese high schooler Jotaro Kujo, who is the grandson of Joseph of the previous part.
Okay.
He acquires a stand, which is a ghostly manifestation of one's own fighting spirit. I'll explain stands more likely in the advanced session, but like stands are like basically how fights are done for the rest of the series.
Okay.
It's most people might recognize. There's a kind of jokes like it's the work of an enemy stand, and they have just as many. If there are thousands of different types of souls in the world, there are thousands of different types of stands and how they operate.
Makes sense. Can I time out real quick and just catch up just slightly on the time frame that we've gone so far? When was the first one taking place?
Victorian England, so 1888.
And then the next one's in the 1930s?
1939, right at the onset of World War II.
And then now we're up at 1980s-ish.
Yeah, the late 80s. This is actually around where the series was actually time period of when it was being published. So it's basically set modern day. So we have two of them that are directly descendant of each other. Well, I mean, they're all descendants, but like one begot the next one, right? Like, Jonathan is the progenitor. So Joseph is Jonathan's grandson, and Jotaro is Joseph's grandson. Okay. Does it always travel as down to? Getting to that in part 4.
Okay.
Just when you think you got the pattern, they switch it up on you.
I mean, so
Jotaro has the stand Star Platinum. Joseph has the stand Hermit Purple, and they team up with 3 other, and then later another, but other stand users of Jean-Pierre Polnareff who is a French warrior with the knight-esque stand, knight as in like warrior, like fighter.
Yeah.
Silver chariot, as well as the fortune teller from Egypt, Muhammad Avadol, with the flame pyrokinetic magician's red, and then other Japanese student Noriaki Kakuin with Hierophant green, which really just shoots rocks out of its hands.
Sweet.
These stands in part 3 were initially named after the major arcana of a tarot deck. In fact, the Hiroki Araki designed his own version of like the designs on the cards, which are really cool. And I actually been meaning to get a set of those because they're really pretty. All the enemy stand users are named after these tarot cards, such as you have the Tower of Grey, Yellow Temperance, Justice, Judgment, so on.
Okay, so a bit of a Arcana feel to it.
They add another like ally, a little dog about maybe about a foot tall. I think it's like a boxer or some kind. Really doesn't want to help at all. He has to stand the Fool. And then the stands after that are named after Egyptian gods, so like Geb, Horus, Osiris, Adam, things of that nature. And then they start getting named after pop culture references. But the reason they're going to Egypt is that Dio has returned and has awakened his own stand of the world, or Zawado, and he has inadvertently laid a curse on the Joestar family, and it is causing Jotaro's mother, Holly, to die. Okay. And so they're trying to go to Egypt to defeat Dio once and for all. I will explain something about the 5th protagonist that is relevant to Dio in the advanced session. Anyway, part 4 is set in a single small town in 1999 Japan, the town of Morio. It is based off of the author's own suburban town that he grew up in. It is a slice of life murder mystery starring Josuke Higashikata. He is Joseph's illegitimate son, sired when Joseph was in his 60s.
Oh.
There's an ongoing joke that Joseph can cheat on. Joseph has never found anything he can't cheat on. He's cheated in his fights, he's cheated death, and he cheated on his wife. Josuke Higashikata is a 16-year-old high school student in his hometown of Morio, Japan. And he is trying to solve the mystery of why Morio has a missing persons statistic 8 times higher than the average of Japan. He has a regenerative stand called Crazy Diamond, so it heals things. And he's joined by 2 classmates, Koichi Hirose with Echoes, Okuyasu Nijimura with The Hand, another manga artist named Rohan Kishibe with the mind-reading stand Heaven's Door, and Jotaro from Part 3 returns with Star Platinum. In case you're confused on the relation, Josuke is Jotaro's uncle, and also 10 years younger than him.
Okay.
I don't want to reveal the villain because that's plot related.
Sure. So let me slow you down just a tiny bit. So we have each story arc is a totally different story style, right? Like every time they're going through. This time in arc 4, they're doing that murder mystery. Does everybody in the world basically have these stands? Or
it sure feels like it, but no, it's actually a very small population.
Okay,
everyone in the show has it.
It's actually very interesting that why there's so many stand users in a single town. It's part of a thing related to fate, which is actually a thing in JoJo. Fate as like a concept, and is in part 6. It is described as the same thing as gravity.
Okay, but so a pool.
That
of
actually
some
kind
sort.
of. That's an interesting theory too, because there's multiple stories that use a similar concept to that.
Part 5, which is the most recent one to be animated as part of the anime by David Productions. It stopped. The finale for Part 5 aired in August 2019. For context, this stars the very mysterious teenage boy, age 15, of Giorno Giovanna. He is half British, half Japanese. This is set in 2001 Italy. He has the stand Gold Experience, which brings things to life.
Okay.
And he joins the increasingly powerful crime family known as Passion, which is the passion in Italian. He wants to defeat the boss and end the drug trade that's ruining hundreds and thousands of innocent lives across Italy, especially in Naples, where he grew up. He joins a small-time team of gangsters led by Bruno Bucciarati, who is the best mom, who has the stand Sticky Fingers, which uses zippers to access pocket dimensions.
That is amazing.
I want that.
Okay.
I want that one.
All these different stands. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we've got the like healing one, the pocket dimension one, what was the gold one you just mentioned?
Gold experience brings things to life.
Bring things to life.
Like
so
it-
just
like it
inanimate
turns-
objects?
Yeah, so like he at one point he turns a brick into a snake. He steals luggage by turning it into a frog.
Wait. I had to unmute for that.
In the very first episode, so it's introduced that Koichi from part 4 is trying to investigate who Giorno is on behalf of Jotaro. And so the first thing that Giorno does upon meeting Koichi, he offers himself as a taxi driver and promptly steals his luggage by turning the suitcase into a frog.
Okay. Why not? Why
This
not?
gets even more bizarre. Just wait. You thought this was bizarre now. It gets even more.
Oh, we're only starting on the bizarre adventure.
This, by the way, this is one of my favorite parts, part 5. Other gangsters include Leone Abacchio with Moody Blues, which can replay real-life events. Narancia Girga with Aerosmith, which is literally like a toy plane that attacks people. Guido Mista with the stand Sex Pistols, which redirects his bullets. And then Panicotta Fugo, who has the stand Purple Haze, which is a flesh-eating virus.
But
They set off across Italy to defeat the boss, who no one has ever seen his face, in order to take over the mafia family.
I feel like Jimi Hendrix might have a few things to say about the flesh-eating stand.
I'll be getting to that later.
Okay.
Part 6, which we're currently awaiting an anime adaptation, has Jotaro Kujo's daughter, Jolene Kujo. She is framed. This is set in 2011 Florida. Jolene is framed for a crime she did not commit and is sentenced to prison inside the Green Dolphin Street prison, and uncovers a plot devised by Dio's most faithful disciple, Father Enrico Pucci. Jolene acquires the stand Stone Free, which can turn her body into strings.
Oh, how is that useful?
She can navigate. So if she extends strings from her hand, she can actually listen in on conversations in other rooms if the string can get through. These strings can also manifest as like a regular stand behind her, and she does punching attacks. Then she's at one point she can just manipulate her entire body at one point in order to fight off a gravity-based stand that was going to turn her inside out. She turns her body into a series of Mobius strips where inside out doesn't exist.
Okay.
She is joined by fellow inmates Hermes Costello with the stand Kiss that can duplicate objects. Narciso Anasui with the kinetic energy absorbing Diver Down. A amnesiac man named Weather Report and his stand Weather Report. There is a mysterious girl introduced about 30 chapters in called FF, which stands for Foo Fighters, and her stand is Foo Fighters. There's also a boy that lives in the prison, who, with his stand burning down the house, can access a ghost room from the prison that burnt down a decade back. His name was Emporio Al Nino, and they have to uncover what the plot by Father Enrico Pucci.
I think we're gonna kill Green.
Yep.
I'm just at the point where I'm hearing all these references and I'm trying to grasp the story. I swear, I'm trying to grasp the story as you're going through it. But all these references are throwing me off because all I can think is, really? Foo Fighters? Why?
I'll be getting that. I'll be getting that. Part 7, Steel Ball Run, is actually a reboot of this series. It is pretty much unrelated to the original 6. Part 6 really kind of ended the story in a very nice way, in my opinion. Steel Ball Run, which is actually my favorite part of all time, is set in 1890s the United States. The Steel Ball Run is actually a horse race from San Diego to New York City. And Johnny Joestar, a young paraplegic horse jockey, joins the Steel Ball Run with Gyro Zappelli, a Neapolitan executioner who is trying to prevent a boy from being executed for a crime he doesn't think that Gyro thinks he didn't commit. And so Johnny is trying to learn the secrets of an ability called the Spin, which is something exclusive to the Zappelli family.
Is Johnny strapped to the horse?
So in order to get on the horse, he actually makes like the horse head like push him up. So so he's sitting on the ground.
He does it rodeo style then,
the horse comes up behind him and literally uses its head to lift Johnny up onto the saddle.
Okay.
But Johnny was according to the story, the youngest boy to ever win the Kentucky Derby. So he knows how to ride a horse.
It's insane because, I've ridden horses. Jay has ridden horses. You have to use your legs. It's to have a that's impressive. That's impressive.
But he tries to race
till you get to the president.
The United States, but they uncover a plot orchestrated by the president, Funny Valentine, which in order to gain artifacts of a certain holy power, I don't want to reveal too much about the story, but it's stands continue to be a presence, but they more of sort of supplement the story instead of take center stage.
Okay.
This is my favorite. As I said, this is my favorite part. It's got my favorite villain, some of my favorite characters. I highly recommend it. Some of the other racers include a new version of Dio called Diego. There's also the androgynous Hot Pants, the Native American sprinter Sandman, the perpetually lucky Poco Loco, and the legendary bounty hunter, what was his name? Mountain Tim. I remember. Timmy! Then the 8th part, which is the one that's currently being published, is set in 2011 in Morio again, though a slightly different version of Morio. It's a continuation of the Steel Ball Run story. A mysterious young man is found buried in the sands after the 2011 earthquakes that devastated the coast of Japan in real life. A boy is found, assumed to be around 19 years old, who is quickly nicknamed Josuke. As a community, in order to not confuse him with Part 4's Josuke, we call this one Gappy because he has a gap between his 2 front teeth. So Gappy is adopted into the Higashikata family, which is a wealthy fruit-selling family, and tries to figure out who he was. But unfortunately, over the course of it, he uncovers a hidden plot from a mysterious cartel, all with their own stands, and Gappy, with the help of a college student named Yasuho, they try to figure out what's going on. They're also joined by the entire Higashikata family, who all have their own stands, as well as the fruit appraiser Rei Mamazuku. And this is Part 8 is really the most bizarre part. It's difficult to really explain, people eating wasps.
Okay, can we do a quick pause real quick and we'll do a quick ad break. Just adding that pause right here. And then
we'll come back to talking about people eating wasps.
Sure.
Because that sounds yummy. I mean, it's...
The hosts at Robots Radio get a lot of questions from people who are interested in starting their own podcasts about how they can start, how they can grow their audiences, how they can create good content, even what microphone to use and what software to use, things like that. Well, we're changing things up at Robots Roundtable to talk and share about the things that we've learned, the things that work and the things that don't. We're sharing with you our actual real-world experience. how can you launch a show like the Fallout Lorecast and get as many listeners as we did early on and rocket to the top of the charts on Apple Podcasts? How do you create a show in such a crowded marketplace as it is today, as opposed to 10 years ago? We're getting together every week to share our answers with you. Just look up The Podcast Professor, a Robots Roundtable with the hosts from Robots Radio.
Okay, here's my first question. Do the wasps still try to sting them as they're going down? Or is this like Danger Man trying to eat scorpions or something like that?
So you see, the villains of Part 8 are raised by wasps, and then they eat them.
Green's shut down at this point.
Okay. I imagine these are not normal wasps that die off every year.
No, these are normal wasps.
It's like the hive or the whatever.
So the villains of Part 8 are not technically human. I mean, you can probably assume. They're actually a special type of, apparently, was it silicon? They're not carbon-based life forms. In Chapter 99, I believe they're described as a plan to be in case humanity doesn't work by like whatever god might exist. These are the people who would survive if humanity were to go away, and they're literally like they're sort of like parasites who are inadvertently raised by like they're born very 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 small. They're taken into a wasp nest and they are fed by the wasp until they're big enough to eat the nest. They're known as rock humans. They can turn into rocks.
Because that's a feature that they needed.
Okay.
That's just the tip of the iceberg of JoJolian. JoJolian is the ongoing part, and I believe if I had to estimate, we're about 10 to 20 chapters away from its finale. We're kind of in like the climax of the story. Things are wrapping up.
I am at the point where I need to be drinking or and consuming other substances, because I feel like I know that there's probably a way that it all sort of makes sense, that it's just turned up to 11 to weave it all together. But it definitely lives up to the Bizarre Adventure title with...
So this is a funny story. And so my girlfriend... Our first date was getting drinks, and I spent a good sixth of that date doing what I'm doing right now.
Hey,
and she still wanted a second
Actually,
date. She still wanted
good
a
on
second
you.
date. And you know what the second date was? I made her start the series.
You know what, though? Good on you for not holding back and just being you. Yes. Yes.
We're going to just cut to the chase. Let's see if you're going to stay around.
That's the way to do it.
Basically it.
How funny. Okay, so...
Oh, yeah, she is in chat.
Oh, she's in chat.
He turned me into a complete weeb.
I love you.
Megan, you are appreciated and very patient.
She's the one who got me this JoJo shirt that chat can't see me wearing.
Nice.
That's awesome. Okay, so on the JoJo shirt, do you have each of the different JoJo's?
No.
Is that that's going on?
This is the Part 5 cast. So sucks for audio listeners. So the middle one right here, that's Giorno. One with the pink one, that's Giorno.
Uh-huh.
That's Mista. That's Narancia, Abacchio, Bruno, and then Fugo. That was a lot of O's, but they're all Italian.
Are each grouping or each story cast around the same size, or you're going to be around 6 cast members for each one, or at least primary, or is it going to fluctuate a little bit?
It fluctuates. Part 1, 2, and 7 have pretty small cast of primary characters.
Okay.
3, 4, 5, and 6, and 8 have a little bit bigger cast of main characters.
So we kind of did a breakdown of just like the basic story going through all 8 that are released currently, right?
Yes.
Did like a really, really general overview of that. But I've seen a lot of things on the internet because it's kind of a phenomenon right now, again, within the States, that people are like, oh my gosh, there's these like overarching themes that are like starting to pool together, and like, what is going on? And it's like, okay, so there's a meta story within all of like overarching all these little stories.
Yes and no. So they kind of so it varies between so most of it. So for the first 6 parts, the original story is really more related to Dio's influence on the family. Sometimes it's a lot more explicit, like in 1, 3, and 6, where it's like it's Dio pulling the strings, or it's Dio's disciple finishing what Dio started. While 2, 4, and 6 tend to take a more like, these are the consequences of Dio's actions. Really a more if I had to distill the themes of JoJo to one single sentence or one single theme, it's the triumph of the human spirit and the innate goodness of humankind in general. Because the whole thing, really back to Dio, is that he chose to reject his own humanity to become a vampire. And really, it's the triumph of the humankind willing to say, no, we're going to do what's right for all people. Because every single protagonist has this relatively innate sense of goodness about them. They all want to do the right thing. Some have more interesting ways to get to that. Some are a lot more straightforward. Really, the most morally ambivalent of the JoJo's are probably Giorno from part 5 and then Johnny from part 7. They are, while one of them is definitely more selfish, they're both pretty like ruthless, so to speak. They're willing to murder to get what they want.
Okay.
But all in all is this sense of like, these are good people who want to do good. And really, I think the best, other than Jonathan, I think Josuke from part 4 is the best one that kind of models that. His stand, Crazy Diamond, has the power to heal people, but it cannot affect himself. It's like showing how selfless he is, because stands are a reflection of one's soul. So Crazy Diamond literally has no benefit to Josuke. It can only benefit others. And that's what's so like inspiring about him as a character, because like, even though he's kind of he's still a teenager and he wants money, he wants nice things. He's still when he's put into a corner, he will always choose the right course of action.
Okay.
Yeah, because you get
Jonathan's
that.
just a good boy.
Yeah, you get that even with I think that was one of the very first episodes in the first season is I think it's Jonathan getting destroyed because he's protecting Arena, yeah. And he's like, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because I want to be a gentleman, and and all this like upstanding stuff. And it was like, I was like, it's extremely cheesy, but it's extremely like it's a really good look into his, like, especially as the episodes go so far. It just like that is the core kind of personality trait that seems to be his, and his dad too. His dad was the one where he's like, even when he found out that, was it
Dario took the ring.
Yeah, even though Dario stole from him and tried to just leave him for dead, he basically forgave him and gave him back the ring that he had stolen. And he was like, just make sure you have an honest life, which of course didn't quite work out. But
so does Dio also have a stand as a vampire?
He acquires a stand in part 3, which is when stands were first introduced. Part 1 and 2 was only focused as in terms of power. It was more focused on the vampires and Hamon as an ability.
Kind of key style.
Yeah, Hamon is kind of like chi and that kind of thing. Stands were introduced in part 3, and Dio's acquiring of the stand is actually what started the whole curse thing.
Okay.
Yes, Dio has a stand. It's called the World, or as he says in the Japanese sub, is Zawado. And I don't want to say what its ability is.
Okay, so that's what you had mentioned earlier. I was like, I thought I heard you mention the world, but I couldn't remember what you had said it could do. So
I'll definitely probably talk about it in the advanced session of what it does.
Okay, so you said Dio shows up. Does Dio, as a vamp, does he have progeny? Does he have descendants or people that he's...
That's something to say for the advanced session as well. The answer is yes. The answer is yes, he does, but they are a lot more relevant in speaking of some more spoilers.
Okay, so we have this original family line, the brothers, right? Like half brother, you said?
Well, no, so
Dio is an adopted brother. Dio is the adopted brother into the Joestar family.
But so you have the Joestar family, and then one family line creates all these Joes of some sort.
Yeah. And it's something I actually find really interesting, is that the nickname of JoJo is literally fate itself, predestining each of these family members into a fight against the supernatural, against Dio or whatever evil they find themselves with. Because when Joestar family members don't have this nickname, they tend to be more neutral or just sort of like plot related objects. Okay. The ending to part 6 is heavily involves this, but I don't want to go into that.
And then Dio's got his own line, essentially, that he's not necessarily as directly going down as the JoJo Star family aspect.
Yes. Dio has his own progeny, which are one of them is a lot more important than the other ones, but they do all known ones appear as characters in the series.
Okay. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a Cain and Abel overarching idea.
That's actually a really apt comparison. Really, a Cain and Abel kind of thing is really what part 1 was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You definitely you get that feeling right from the start with the part 1. I will say that there are some significant differences, but as far as the trope of the brothers fighting each other, that's 100% accurate as to, and it's interesting watching the interplay between the two brothers and the father figure too.
Absorbing and trying to formulate the next direction, because it seems like the writer for the series really wanted to play with different styles and concepts of, you have your mysteries, you have your Wild West, you have your Prohibition-esque kind of feel, and I guess a little bit after the Prohibition within 30s-ish.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I think a lot of people really love about JoJo's is how it makes genre changes and character additions really integral to the story. While certain properties, when they introduce characters, it could be hit or miss. This character is very interesting. It makes it integral. You're almost encouraged to really develop your feelings with these characters. Part 1 is gothic horror. It's kind of like Dracula. It's I would also describe it as biblical. It's sort of this sort of mythic. When I rewatched the series, it was a lot more fun watching it especially part 1 the second time than it was the first time, because knowing where it all goes and being reminded this is where it all began is really sort of heartwarming, I would say. Part 2, Battle Tendency, is a kind of this Indiana Jones swashbuckling film. Joseph, travels around the world fighting bad guys, taking names. Part 3 is also a road trip, but Jotaro is kind of this Clint Eastwood character. He's doesn't talk a lot. Man of action, man with prefers to punch his way out of a situation than talk. Part 4 is a murder mystery. Part 5 is a mafia drama. Part 6 is a prison break. 7's a horse race. 8 is a sort of a Twin Peaks kind of deal. Less murder mystery, more mystery. It's almost Scooby-Doo-esque, but almost as silly. but way less childish. Just as silly, way less childish. That's a good one. Part 8 is Scooby-Doo.
Warn listeners. Sent me a link to this 1 second from every episode of JoJo.
Did I send you that? I thought I did.
Like,
or did someone else do it?
You suggested I look at it. And I watched this thing. And I was stunned. It's hard to catch any, like, the thing that stood out to me, and I mentioned it to you when we were talking about it, is that they take a lot of obviously pop culture references with all the different stands having names of bands specifically, and the music being tied in. We had talked about that a little bit in our private conversation, but also that they really pay homage to a lot of other anime as well. And you had mentioned that is a common thing within quite a few animes, is that they not necessarily steal from each other, but they take similar.
There's actually, I'm going to pull one episode from part 3, or one story, small like stand battle from part 3. That's a very interesting one that I think is relevant, is the stand battle of Death 13. So Death 13 is one of the tarot card based stands, and what it is a Death 13 is just Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street. It kills people in your dreams. That's its whole thing. And the issue is that the wielder is a baby, an extremely intelligent baby.
Okay.
But it's a baby, probably not even maybe 1 year old. And this incredibly intelligent child, who is called a mannish boy, who is basically hired by Dio to kill the protagonist. And so there's this sort of like ethical thing, like the only one who's aware of what's going on is Kakyoin, who is the long-range rock shooting stand Hierophant Green. He's the only aware. He keeps waking up with these nightmares, and because something's trying to kill him in his dreams, and he doesn't know what. And it all started when they got close to this baby, but you can't remember your dream when you wake up, so he's just waking up terrified and can't tell anybody. He just he doesn't remember what's going on. And so this whole issue of like. And then Kakyoin figures this out, like, it's the baby who has the stand. And so what do we do? Because everyone else thinks Kakyoin's crazy.
Oh, jeez. Okay. It reminds me of Supernatural and Buffy a little bit with this kind of field, too. Because you have kind of, is it like not necessarily a monster of the week, but like each episode you've got kind of a different thing going on, but it's still really, really crazy going on in it.
Part 3 is definitely the most... That one tends to drag the most, because it is very much a monster of the week style formula where, like, Jotaro and the others are now in Pakistan, and what's going on? This spooky hotel. It might be an enemy stand. And then next thing you know, they're in the Arabian desert, and oh no, what's going on? It might be an enemy stand. And so that's what really all of them, starting with part 3, did. But part 3 definitely has the most pacing issues, in my opinion. Part 4 tends to deal with this a lot better, because it is set in a singular town, and so it's like you never know about the person living 5 doors down,
right?
And so and then you come across these strange set of like circumstances, and then something's going on, something's not right, and then you figure out this is the stand, this is what it's doing, and how they're trying to defeat it.
Okay. Gotcha.
And what's really great about part 4 is very few people die in part 4. The whole thing is these are just normal people.
Right.
Who are just all doing their own thing.
Is it common that main characters are killed off pretty quickly, or?
Let me put it this way. All your favorites are going to die.
Okay. So a little bit George R.R. Martin. That's fine.
It's very Song of Ice and Fire in that manner. But what I think is one of its strongest, it's never death just for the sake of the death. It's not just for the sake of the shock value. There's always a bigger theme going on with it. There's something always a lot more sad than just boom, character's dead.
Right.
There are some now it's a bit more pedantic, I would say, in parts 1 and 2 and probably 3, but I think 5 and 6 deal with this a whole lot better.
Okay.
And 7, it's just like death is always a threat. in JoJo's, and that's something like that I really like about it, is that no one feels safe, and that ups the stakes better than I think other shows do.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'd like to actually, I think we're at a good place to just cut the intro session, and I really want to just know about these stand things. Like, I want to know if there's a macaroni stand, or
listen, she just really wants to know.
Something like it.
Is the money in the banana stand, or
a hot dog stand?
There are some money stands. There are some money stands. I can name 2 right now.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up this session, and then we can jump into the advanced session, because I want to know about these things. Because I like the overarching of the family and how the story is written and how it's different in each different arc. But the concept of the stands, and I know it kind of comes and goes depending on which story you're in, that is a fun little magic-like system that I want to really get into.
It's something that I really like about this series. This is one of the thousand of things that I like about the show, is that power stands in terms of a power system is way more flexible than something like Naruto or Dragon Ball does, where it's like people are constantly gaining power. At a certain point, you're just like, whatever. Stands. What I love about stands is every single stand, no matter how powerful it is, has a weakness. There is an exploitation to it. I'll get more in depth with it, but like even some of the most powerful stands in the series, like Star Platinum, they have drawbacks. And like there are things that Jotaro cannot do with his stand, and that makes him like it makes the teams like the JoJo's and their Jo Bros, they make a better team, because like while one stand may not be able to do stuff very far, there's always a good stand that can go more further away.
Yeah,
and
it's a deck building game.
Yeah, it's very deck building-esque, and that's what I really like about one of the 1,000 things that I love about the series.
I like it. Well, Blue, should we start doing shout-outs and whatnot?
Yeah, let's do shout-outs real quick. Neo, do you have any shout-outs for us for this session?
I'll shout out to Megan for showing people my shirt in the chat.
Nice.
Yeah.
And for just sticking around, because
yep,
we appreciate that.
I'm going to shout out to you for being brave to be yourself on a first date. That's impressive.
I spent another 6 only talking Destiny. So.
Like I said, being yourself, super important. Tips to anybody who wants to be on a date and have a relationship that's worthwhile. Be yourself on the first date. Don't be somebody else, because if you are and the dates go on, then you're going to have to keep being that somebody else. Blue?
Yep. Oh, no, just real quick, a big shout out to everyone who has stayed sane this past week.
Yeah.
That's, I know like a couple people, I think there is something going on in politics, but what I was really talking about is the upcoming console release. It's very, very stressful time.
Yeah, everybody's looking at their delivery dates and their times, and I get it.
Can't come soon enough.
I know everyone's having to learn how to count. I hear that's a really difficult thing to figure out right now.
Microsoft is having a big issue with that, I'll tell you that.
God, yeah. But no, dude, seriously, thank you for everyone for just being civil. I know there's been a lot of raised tensions this past week, and I appreciate, I don't know, maybe it's because I've muted 90% of my timeline, but it seems very nice outside. So,
it's as somebody who hasn't muted, it actually has been. And the ones I want to actually make a shout out and a kind of announcement at the end of this with the fact that we have renamed the server, the Discord server. We are now, because we're joined with the Guardians of Lore. We are now Lore Hub for all your Lore Hub needs. And just a shout out to our server. Everyone in there did a really good job of just, we're not gonna discuss politics. Like, no one's trashing anybody. Everyone's being really civil. Everyone's excited because of the ARG that dropped on Thursday. Like that, I mean, there's a lot of really, really good things happening right now that, with as dark as everything has been and how intensely tense it has been, it's a refreshing thing to have a place to be able to go that you know that you're not going to get attacked. You're not going to attack anybody else. Everyone's going to respect each other, and that's a good thing.
Yes. Also, thank you for giving me an excuse to troll everybody by giving me an option to put that as the logo. I've gotten so many messages with people who are like, well, now I'm afraid to open Discord in public spaces. You're welcome.
It's not that bad.
There's a certain drum and bass combo that might
oh my
be very
gosh.
fitting.
I've been trying to figure out how to put that in there. It's
I think, yeah, I've got an idea for that. We could figure it out. We could figure it out.
Oh, man. So anyways, thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, stand proud, and keep exploring.
Was that a JoJo's reference?
With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.